Hi, it's Mr. Ramage, and we're going to do a quick review on the fiscal policies of the federal government. So up to this point, we've been looking at the role of the Federal Reserve's monetary policy in terms of controlling the economy, trying to move the economy up in times of recession and try to move the economy down in times of inflation. So the federal government's going to perform the same role, but they're going to do it differently. And the fiscal policy of the government is going to be through how they tax people, as well as through government spending. So we're going to look at taxes and spending. So just a quick look at taxes. We're not going to dive deep into taxes, but basically we know that we pay income tax to both the federal, state, and local governments. These are income taxes on the money that we earned through our job, and those taxes go off in those three different directions. And there's all different types of taxes, but we're going to keep it very simple for the purpose of this review. And local taxes, of course, are used to pay for government services, anything from police to fire to garbage collection. Property taxes, which are paid by people who are homeowners, are used to fund public education. So local taxes go to provide for local services. State taxes go to the state of Ohio, and those are used to pay for state services. These are things that impact the entire state, things like public education, Medicaid, higher education, corrections, transportation, and things like that. But we're going to focus on the role primarily of the federal government in terms of how they impact the economy through their fiscal policy of both taxes and spending. So in terms of taxes, and again, this is building on the things that we've already talked about with the monetary policy of the Fed. So this should all be relatively familiar. You need to be able to identify if the economy is doing one thing, how can the federal government reverse that trend by either raising or lowering taxes or increasing or decreasing spending. So in terms of taxes, if we're in an inflationary period where the economy is rising and prices are going up and borrowing and spending is going up, but we need to cool off the economy, we need to pull money out, remember. So in terms of the fiscal policy of the government, one way that they're going to do that is to raise taxes. Okay, which is never a popular thing for any politician or government official to do, but could be and has been at times necessary. So in terms of reversing an inflationary economy, we are going to raise taxes. And what that's going to do is that's going to pull money out of the economy by increasing the amount of money that comes out of your paycheck. So if you are paying, let's say, $275 a month in federal taxes, and we increase that by $100, you're now paying $375. That's $100 less that you have to go out and spend, or to invest, or to save. So that $100 coming out of your paycheck, in addition to the money that's already coming out, is going to force you to make some different economic choices. So by raising taxes, that's going to naturally reduce spending because you simply don't have as much money to spend. You're bringing less money home. If then we are in a period of recession where the economy is in decline, where unemployment is high and spending is low and the economy is very sluggish, one way that the government can sort of jumpstart that economy is to lower taxes. Okay, so by cutting taxes, that's going to put more money back into the hands of everybody else, and they're going to be able to use that money to go out and to spend. And really, that's the point. Remember, in order to reverse that economy and get it to go back up, we need people to spend money. So cutting taxes means that more people are going to bring more money home with each paycheck, and hopefully we'll go out and use that money and spend that money in order to help jumpstart that economy. Well, the second fiscal policy that the government uses is through government spending, and our current federal budget is around $4 trillion. So the government spends a lot of money. So during a period of inflation, where again prices are on the rise and inflation is taking place and there's too much borrowing and too much spending, one way that the government can reverse that is by cutting spending. Okay, so when the government cuts spending, they are going to reduce the budget, which means less money going out into the economy. They're going to cancel contracts with companies and businesses. They're going to purchase less materials. That money is going to leave the economy, which will mean that businesses will produce less, which means they might hire fewer workers or actually lay off some workers. And that should take money out of the economy, and that should help reduce the economy and stop that period of inflation. So if by cutting spending will reduce the economy, then the opposite, again, should also be true. If we're in a period of recession and unemployment is on the rise and then companies aren't borrowing and spending, one way the government can reverse that trend, which is a phrase that you'll see on your graduation test, the government would increase their spending. And by increasing their spending, the government would then put more money into the economy by hiring companies to do maybe public works programs, purchasing more things for the military, investing more money in infrastructure. So in order to bring the economy back up, we have to put more money into it, and we can do that if the government spends more money.
Billions and 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 billions and
Okay, so these are the fiscal policies of the government. So we have that expansionary policy. Remember, expansionary is putting money into the economy to help it grow, to help it expand. Just like the balloon, if the balloon's the economy and we want it to expand, we need to put air into it, and the air is the money. So we need more money. So the government's going to cut taxes, which means more money coming home in your paycheck, and they're also going to possibly increase spending, which means they're going to put more money into the economy by spending it on things. If we want to talk contractionary policy, again, taking that balloon and contracting it down, we need to take the air out of that balloon, which means we need less money in the economy. And to do that, the government would raise taxes, taking more money in and less money out of the economy in your paycheck, and also cut spending by reducing programs and things that the government would be spending money on. So make sure you understand that fiscal policy of both expansionary and contractionary. Cutting taxes and increasing spending is expansionary, and contractionary policies would be raising taxes and cutting spending. The last couple of things that we need to know in terms of preparing for that graduation test is the federal budget. Okay, so we know that the president actually proposes the budget, and all the executives propose the budget. The president proposes the federal budget, the governor proposes the state budget, and the mayor proposes the local budget. And those are just proposals. They have to be approved by the legislature. So the president proposes it to Congress, Congress has to vote on it. The governor proposes it to the state legislature has to vote and approve it. And the mayor proposes it to city council, and they also have to approve that budget. But it is the responsibility of the president or the executive to do that. Now, within the federal budget, there's two different parts. There are what are called mandatory spending and discretionary spending. And again, we're going to avoid all the details and avoid the rabbit hole of this whole thing and just talk about what those two terms mean. So in the mandatory programs, those are things that the government has to spend money on. And that would be things like Social Security and welfare and Medicare and Medicaid and veterans benefits. Those are mandatory programs that have to be funded no matter what. Now, the discretionary part of the budget, this is where the president or the governor or the mayor gets to sort of decide how he or she wants to spend things. So it's at their discretion, hence discretionary budget. So the discretionary budget changes from year to year. Some programs might get more money, some programs might get less money. It all depends sort of on how the executive wants to move forward, what their policies are, what their goals are, and what they want to try to accomplish. Okay, so that's a really simple look at the budget. Again, we could dive down deep and talk about lots of different things, but that's not what you're going to see on the graduation test. So we're going to keep it simple, and we're going to keep this video review aligned to what you're going to have to do come April. So mandatory spending are parts of the budget that must be spent. Discretionary is where you get to make some choices and decisions depending on what you believe the money should go towards. All right, so that's our quick wrap up on the role of the federal government with the economy. So we have raising and lowering taxes and increasing and decreasing government spending. And we also know a little bit more about the federal budget and how that works as well. Make sure you review those terms, practice them, and be ready for that big old graduation test. I'm sure you guys will do just fine.